You clicked for the carrier showdown, you're in the right place. A Chinese Type 815 spy ship closed the gap, thinking proximity equals power. It didn't. It forced the US Navy to light up a hidden layer of counter-surveillance. We'll break down the exact sequence: phased array radar flagging the contact around 100 nautical miles, EW teams parsing RF fingerprints, and an E-2 Hawkeye pushing the perimeter to 350 miles. What did Beijing learn from the response timing, radio discipline, and sensor modes, and what did it cost them? Stay, because the mistake wasn't the target. It was the distance. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
It is Type 815, a spy vessel. This ship does not come to fight. This ship comes to listen, sailing all the way around Japan. A full circle, an entire month at sea, watching, recording, collecting intelligence. It picks up radio signals, solar communication, and then sends all that data back to Beijing.
The spy ship thought closeness equals control. So why did stepping inside 100 nautical miles flip the board against it? The sea sat flat. Jets cycled off the angle deck. The carrier kept her drumbeat: launch, recover, fuel, rearm, while a Type 815 crept from the gray at the edge of the radar horizon. It had shadowed far before, content to sip data from the margins. Today it eased inward, slow and steady, trading safety for signal. Proximity promised a feast. More lobe energy, cleaner lines, longer dwell on discrete emissions. But the closer it pressed, the more the carrier had to bring layers online that rarely see daylight. That trade cuts both ways. You get signal, you wake the bear. There's a myth that carriers are blind at sea level. They're not. They shape the ether. They dial power, steer apertures, and run quiet until the mission says otherwise. Silence is not ignorance, it's posture. When required, they unlock capacity, and they do it in steps. At about the 100-mile ring, a surface search mode builds a clean hull picture. Not a name, a form, large displacement, high superstructure, slow relative speed, a shape that doesn't try to hide. That radar return, layered with electro-optical and infrared tracks, cuts through haze and glare to put steel behind the plot. You don't need perfect weather to know you've got a collector at the gate. Then the voice. Calm, clipped, by the book. Bridge-to-bridge hails go out on open channels, in standard phrasing, sometimes multilingual to kill confusion. The words are tidy and careful. The clock is the tell. Latency between hail and reply. Word choice. Grammar. Who talks first? Short lines carry weight. Timing becomes a data point.
Shocked Tokyo. Japan's military all of a sudden spotted a Chinese warship, not near one island, but sea. Now China tracked the ship from the very start to the end. First it came near Tsushima Strait. Then it moved near. China was basically telling Japan that we are watching your drills, your response time, your radar coverage, every single thing.
Meanwhile, law stands in the door. International waters allow presence and passage. The carrier doesn't weave or posture. Course and speed hold steady, and everything is recorded. Every bearing drift, every call, every light flick. Legal discipline is a shield and a ledger. It lowers heat and keeps receipts. Inside the Combat Information Center, the drill is a minute long and practiced. Track history gets plotted from the first whiff. ID confidence moves from possible to probable as the sensors stack. Emissions logging starts, wide and patient, catching radar sweeps, data link bursts, and side chatter. The air wing gets a heads up, but the deck rhythm doesn't break. Jets still move. The crew still works. The net tightens without drama. Here's the twist that stung the 815. The target didn't matter. The range did. Crossing that line forced the carrier to show a slice of its detection ladder. That gave Beijing the timestamps it came to collect. What lights when, how fast, in what order. But stepping in also snapped a vice around the spy ship. Now its own emissions ran under a magnifying glass. Antenna motion, beam shape, pulse habits, data link cadence. The net drank it all. Think of it like leaning over a chessboard to read the other side's notes while leaving your playbook open under the lamp. You steal a move. You give away your hand. In the ether, tempo is truth. Who forces who to react tells you where the edge lives. The sea stayed calm. The radio stayed cool. The law stayed loud. The 815 edged, paused, inched again. Each yard stripped a little more cover from both sides, but the carrier owned the pace. Sensors woke in sequence, not all at once. Messages came in bursts, not streams. The deck rolled on. The book got thicker. And now the part you came for shifts off the scopes and into the noise. The real reveal wasn't radar at all. It was the invisible duel, RF against RF, where the carrier writes the script and the spy ship reads it late. What did the Chinese crew actually learn from the US response timing and signal choices? Down in the carrier's EW cell, the work looks like quiet war. Operators sit on wideband scopes, peeling apart radar modes, link traffic, and stray RF pops. One voice stays on with CIC, trading short updates and tasking. The goal is simple: build the electronic map faster than the collector across the water can draw it. The Type 815 wants emissions. It wants stable modes, clean patterns, long dwell. But the carrier refuses the buffet. Emkin tightens. Radars shift modes. Beams go narrow. Passive sensors take the lead. The spy ship gets less to chew on and more to guess at. That pressure forces it to chase, which is where it leaks. Sequencing is the discipline that matters. First, low-power surface search, enough to classify shape and motion without gifting a steady signature. Then brief, predictable bursts on guard channels, just the minimum required by safety and law, timed so a collector can't form a baseline. After that, selective emissions come in slices, short and staggered, so any template the 815 builds goes stale within minutes.
It picks up radio signals, solar communication, and then sends all that data back to Beijing. Maybe. Security experts say that this is Beijing's way of saying that every move you make, we can see that. Now, China tracked the ship from the very start to the end. First it came near Tsushima Strait, then it moved near...
The air picture changes the second the E-2 Hawkeye lifts. Now the battle space stretches out. The Hawkeye pulls air and surface into one fused plot, a single sheet instead of two half-finished drawings. Gaps close. Contacts that drift between ship radars stay painted by the eye in the sky. The spy ship loses the easy edges where small errors used to hide. Meanwhile, the escorts and the air wing keep the net tight. Data moves fast. A composite track file grows with each pass and ping. Triangulation pins the 815's own emitters, its search sets, its navigation aids, the backbone of its comms, and each habit gets a tag: sweep rate, side lobe bleed, antenna steering rhythm. One ship might miss a quirk. 3 platforms won't. Close shadowing carries its own risk ledger. Hulls inside a tight box can trade steel by mistake. Words on open channels can spark heat. But that same range anchors the 815 inside the mesh. Every ping lands in the log. Every course change gets a time mark. Every data link breath turns into a breadcrumb. The spy ship stops being a watcher and becomes a file getting longer by the mile. Here's the part the Chinese crew likely took home. They saw rough timing, when the carrier shifts modes, when burst comms hit, how fast a hail follows a classification bump. They saw that emissions never stayed steady for long, and that passive sensors covered gaps. Useful, but coarse. The carrier's side walked away with more. The 815's RF fingerprint hardened. Antenna steering patterns under different seas. Data link cadence during quiet and busy periods. Which bands wake first when it thinks it has a target. That's doctrine in disguise. Over time, it lets you predict choices, not just detect signals. Think of it like a boxer who feints 3 ways and throws 1. If you chase the gloves, you miss the feet. The carrier trained the fight to the feet, the tempo, so the feints never became a read. So the exchange tilts toward the side that writes the pace. The US limits what it reveals, but widens what it records. China gets a sketch. The carrier gets a tagged, layered profile that sticks. Meanwhile, the legal and coalition frame holds steady. Freedom of navigation continues, transcripts stay clean, and the escort screen keeps the box honest. The spy ship learns the hard lesson of close range. Proximity isn't a key, it's a leash. The wrong carrier didn't matter, doctrine did. Close-in shadowing forced a layered counter-surveillance reveal, then snapped the spy ship into a smarter net that logged its every breath. You saw why range writes outcomes. Proximity lit selective sensors, timed hails, and tight emissions, while the mesh farmed the 815's RF habits, beam shape, sweep rhythm, data link cadence. That's how you turn a stalker into a dataset. What would you prioritize? deny their collection or farm their emissions for a better library? Comment your choice below and subscribe if you want more hard, tactical breakdowns. In a Taiwan crisis, the side that shapes the ether first writes the fight. Subscribe.